My hand rests on the table, and I hear the old certainty knock back. Solid, dependable, the world arranged in neat edges. But tonight, something thin and insistent slips under my skin like a whisper in a temple corridor. What I am thinking is not trapped inside my skull. My attention is a blade, and it cuts pathways through the dark. In that whisper, I feel a summons, a tug like a silken thread brushing my palm. The room is ordinary, lamp glow, a cup cooling on the wood. But a door in the floor seems to tilt open. Beneath the boards is a labyrinth, and the labyrinth is the world we think we know. Atoms mostly empty, tables that are more echo than stone, electrons that ripple as waves until someone looks and they choose to be a point. I hear the call to descend, to find the Minotaur where matter and mind braid into one mystery. I should go. The thread waits. And yet I resist. The first step tastes like madness. How comfortable it is to believe that things are what they seem. Chairs that sit, clocks that tick, futures that arrive like timetables. Even Einstein's complaint flickers through me. Surely the universe doesn't gamble with itself? My skepticism becomes a shield. I imagine scholars scoffing, friends rolling their eyes, my own reason demanding guarantees. I do not want to lose the clean geometry of daylight. I do not want to enter a maze where particles stand in a hall of mirrors, and every corridor forks into 100 more. Safety is a narrow road, polished by denial, but the whisper keeps returning. Look closely and the wall becomes a curtain. Pull it back, the refusal phrase. The threshold is a quiet resolve, a choice so small it feels like a breath. I take the thread, Ariadne's gift, intention made visible, and tie it to my wrist. I step downward, leaving behind the tidy map for the living territory. The decision is simple and absolute. I will be the observer of my own seeing. I will test whether attention is not a passive lantern, but a fire that shapes what it illuminates. And so I go, feet on the cool stone of unknowing, the line between me and the maze thinning until what I watch begins to watch me back. Trials rise like walls around a corner. First, the double slit flickers in my mind like torches along a corridor, electrons that behave as waves until an eye approaches, and then they choose a single path, a singled, as if the gaze itself collapses 1,000 maybes into one clean is. I feel the implications sink to the thread. My focus is a gatekeeper. Next, superposition becomes a chamber with many doors, each a future me, braver, lazier, wiser, numb, standing in silhouette. Until I enter, the doors are all ajar. By choosing, I select a corridor and all the others dim. My attention is a hinge. Then a new room opens, walled with living vines that change as I touch them. Neuroplasticity, the brain rewiring itself with each repeated thought like ivy gripping brick, until the pattern is no longer passing but permanent. Every practice belief lays a stone in the labyrinth. Every daily ritual chisels the passage smooth. I realize I have been building the maze I then accuse of trapping me. I meet the science of intention in a space where candles burn without consuming wick, rituals that alter bodies, expectations that move needles on instruments and on pulse rates, the placebo that heals not by deceit but by psyche recruiting flesh into its faith. Belief is not a ghost. It is a craftsman, and in the most echoing hall, entanglement resounds. Two particles converse faster than light, a bell rung here chiming there without visible thread. I imagine the Minotaur hearing that bell in its sleep, realizing the beast and I, the stone and I, the mother and child and star and I are less separated than we pretend. The labyrinth is not just beneath Athens. It underlies the whole city of being. The walls breathe. The trials do not end. They converge. And beneath them all, a deeper room waits, the abysm, the place of almost death. There, I meet the horned shadow I came to find. The Minotaur is not a monster of appetite alone. It is the part of me that wants certainty at any cost. The part that confuses the map with the terrain. The skeptic so terrified of wonder that it builds prisons of proof and calls them homes. Carl Jung once said the figures of myth are inner figures. The Minotaur is my shadow, unintegrated, guarding the treasure of unclaimed power. If I flee, I live smaller. If I fight blindly, I become what I hate. Individuation demands I stand still, blade lowered, thread alive in my palm, and look into the animal's eyes until I see my own. Jung teaches that what we do not make conscious returns is fate. So I bring a torch to the creature's face, and it becomes less terrible, more wounded. The beast offers me a compromise etched across its horns. Either you remain a spectator of your fears, or you become the observer who transforms them. I realize the death I must die is the death of my illusion that I am a victim of an indifferent maze. I put down the story that my thoughts are harmless phantoms, and I feel the vertigo of responsibility rush in ocean cold. Then, in a gesture that feels like the break of a wave, I lift the blade, not to destroy, but to cut the knot of my passivity. The thread hums. The Minotaur bows its head, and the labyrinth around us shudders, 1,000 possibilities collapsing into one path forward. Ken Wilber's integral vision whispers from the vaults above, everything is part of a larger thing. Perspectives nest like Russian dolls, from atoms to bodies to minds to cultures. He notes that we do not see the world simply as it is. We see according to the altitude of our awareness. And as awareness grows, the world it perceives grows with it. To mistake a single level for the whole is to be lost in one corridor and call the labyrinth entire. My journey is to gather the corridors, to hold wave and particle, brain and prayer, self and world as one unfolding tapestry, and implicate order revealing itself as I learn to look. I turn to return, and everything I touched has changed its shape. The table is still a table, but now is a field of relations, a congealed rhythm. When I press my palm to it, I feel the epic quiet of distance inside matter, the near emptiness that allows room for form to dance. I become deliberate with my observing. Each morning I nigh at the thread. 2 minutes to set direction, to ask my reticular gatekeeper to show me doors I once missed. I journal the beasts I meet, so their hoof prints are ink, not panic. I rehearse the future I will inhabit, not as cotton candy fantasy, but as a sequence of strokes like Michael Phelps counting each pull in a pool of thought until muscle and mind rhyme. I choose precise words that wire precise circuits. Today I take one action that moves a boulder an inch. Neurons fire together, then wire together, and the labyrinth slowly bends in the shape of my foot. Connection becomes a practice, not a mood. Gratitude as a daily treaty with the universe. I name 3 gleaming tiles of the day's mosaic and feel them. The warmth of my ribcage, proof that attention carries current. And when doubt returns, because it does like tides, I remember the cat that is both alive and dead until I open the box of my attention. The electron that is both path until I watch. The twin bells that chime across a canyon without a bridge. I am not claiming mastery over reality. I am claiming kinship with it. My thoughts are not sovereigns commanding matter. They are participants in a dance, and when I learn the steps, the floor answers with its own music. I walk out of the maze under constellations that look suddenly nearer. The city has not changed, yet everything is different. Doors I had missed are now alleys of possibility. Conversations lean forward. Problems reveal their seams. To return is to bring medicine, and I carry mine like a cup that refills as I pour. Not incantation, not superstition, but practices that nudge the quantum of my life into coherence. I say to those who stand at their own threshold with a thread trembling on their wrist, do not wait for certainty. Begin with sincerity. Become the observer of your own mind, and watch how the world tilts in answer. Choose the future you can describe in the texture of its details. Repeat until the path wears smooth. Aim your intention like a star you sail toward. And tie your heart to others. Entangle yourself in trust, in service, in gratitude, so that your courage echoes beyond your own chest. I give thanks to Felipe Brando, whose reflection beats like a drum at the exit of the maze. Change your perspective. Change your life. I feel those words seal the lesson as surely as wax seals a letter. The angle of your gaze is the angle at which reality crystallizes. The hero's journey is not a myth we outgrew. It is the operating system beneath our days. And in my days now, I carry Ariadne's thread in my pocket and the Minotaur in my chest reconciled. I am not merely in the world. I am with it. The labyrinth still turns, but I no longer wander. I walk, I watch, I weave, and the world astonishingly weaves back.